Hi there, how are you today? I'm Barbara from Inside Out Radiance Health Coaching, and in today's video I would like to talk to you about one of the super healthy foods that you might have seen around in the last few years that has quite a tricky pronunciation. And I know because I got caught out myself when I first came across it during my nutrition training years ago. And this food is of particular interest and also of benefit to those who are following vegetarian or plant-based way of eating, as well as those who are trying to reduce the amount of animal-based proteins in their diet. And I will explain why a bit later on, so stick around. And in case you haven't guessed our nutritional superstar yet, I'm referring to quinoa. Or is it quinoa? No, it's quinoa. In this training video, I'm going to give you some ideas on a number of different ways in which you can utilize this extremely versatile ingredient in your own cooking, as well as demonstrate how to make a quinoa-based Mexican-style salad. And this salad, by the way, is one of the recipes which are included in my free guide to creating a beautiful holistic spa experience in the comfort of your own home. If you want that guide now, go to tinyurl.com/radiant spa guide and then come back to this training. So, who am I and what am I doing making you add weird things to your pantry? I'm Barbara from Inside Out Radiance Health Coaching. I'm a nutritional therapist, a psychology of eating health coach, and a mindfulness coach. My mission is to help people just like you maintain or reclaim the radiant health and well-being that is your natural birthright. And that's because I firmly believe that we all deserve to live our lives shining our light as brightly as possible, and also that looking after our physical and emotional well-being are the key aspects to showing up in the world as our best selves. If you're cooking alongside me today, you will see the ingredients in a second, so get ready to pause me and snapshot them. I've also put the ingredients in the comments for you. And if you have any allergies or dislikes of an ingredient, you can simply leave it out or substitute it. And then once you have them all ready, you can follow me in real time. So the ingredients you're going to need for making today's recipe are as follows. For the salad itself, you are going to need 1 cup of quinoa, uncooked, so that's before you cooked it. And I'm using that size of cup roughly, which is like a stand-up mug. And you're going to need 2 cups of water as well. A 450-gram tin of black beans, or if those are not available, you could always use white or pinto beans, and those need to be rinsed. A 450-gram tin of sweet corn, which needs to be drained. 2 cups of cherry tomatoes, which need to be halved. 1 pepper, and that could be either red, orange or yellow pepper, and the pepper needs to be deseeded and then chopped finely. Half a red onion, also chopped finely. And 2 large avocados, which need to be cubed. For the salad dressing, you will need the following: 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, 1/4 of a cup of chopped coriander, which can be substituted for parsley, and I'm talking about fresh coriander parsley, and 1 tablespoon apple cider vinegar, 1 lime, which needs to be juiced, and that makes about 1/4 of a cup of lime juice. I just wanted to clarify before I carry on that the quantities given in this recipe are quite generous and would probably make about 4 portions. So if you don't have anyone to share your lovely quinoa salad with, it might be a good idea to halve the quantities, which is what I will be doing today. Let's get started. And as I've already told you, the quinoa we're going to use is uncooked. So in the first instance, we're going to cook it. And what I do as a bit of a shortcut to save time, I pour boiling water over it to speed up the cooking process a little bit. And if you do that, it's going to take about 10 minutes to have your quinoa ready. But just as a bit of a word of warning, once the water evaporates, because you need to cook it to the point where all the water has evaporated. So once the water evaporated, it can stick to the bottom of a pan and burn very quickly. So I would suggest that you put your timer maybe on something like 9 minutes, and then keep an eye on it for that last bit of time to make sure it's not going to stick or burn. I've done it myself many times, so I know from experience how easily that can happen. So what I would suggest now is that perhaps you pause this video, get your quinoa going, and get some of the ingredients, some of the other ingredients ready, the ones that need prepping. So maybe peel the onion, half and de-seed the pepper, and maybe you also want to open the tins of sweet corn and black beans or whatever other beans you are using, and get them ready to add to the salad. So they need to be rinsed and drained, rinsed in case of beans, and drained, just drained in case of the sweet corn. I'm going to do the same, and I will be back after I've put my quinoa on. So now that our quinoa is cooking, let me tell you a little bit about it. Quinoa is actually not a grain, but a seed of an ancient plant that has been used in South America for thousands of years, and the Incas used to call it the mother grain. It has the highest protein and fat content amongst all of the grains, and it also contains more calcium than cow's milk, and is a great source of iron, phosphorus, B vitamins, and vitamin E. Quinoa is also one of few plant foods which might be considered a complete protein, meaning a protein containing all of the 8 essential amino acids. Quinoa is gluten-free, which makes it a perfect substitute for dishes where couscous would be used, because its texture is quite similar to it. It can be used in lots of different ways, which makes it an extremely versatile food. And some of the things I like to do with it include things like using it in the same way as you would use rice in dishes that call for rice. And this might be of particular interest to diabetics or other people who are trying to reduce the intake of regular grains. I also enjoy eating it for breakfast instead of porridge. Eat it through with some plant milk and with some banana or pear and chopped nuts added to it. And I normally use the quinoa that's already been cooked for that recipe. Adding it to soups, either as a topping to add a boost of protein, or including it in the soup recipe itself. Using it as a stuffing for peppers, marrows, or maybe even cabbage parcels, which are a traditional Polish dish. This is just a little reminder to keep an eye on your quinoa if you're cooking alongside with me to make sure it doesn't burn. I'll put mine on the timer so I will hear it bleep, but you may want to keep an eye on yours too. So let's do some chopping and mixing of the ingredients now. I've prepared a large bowl and I suggest you do the same. And I'll be using half the quantities today, as I was saying earlier. So if you're doing the same, follow the quantities I'm using. If you're using the original amounts, just stick to them. So I've got the sweet corn here, which I prepared earlier. And I'm just going to add it to the bowl. And I've got the black beans, which I'm also going to add to the bowl. And I'm going to start by chopping some tomatoes, which I've already washed, and I've got them ready here. Tomatoes are actually one of the foods I feel quite sentimental about. And that's because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm Polish. Growing up in Poland, my parents had fruit and vegetable growing business, polytunnels, strawberry fields, and a small orchard, and tomatoes and cucumbers. They're grown commercially. So every summer, when I was on my summer holiday, I had to help with the picking of the tomatoes, which was quite hard because when they grow in polytunnels, they planted quite closely together, and they grow tall, up to probably 2 meters or something like that. So when you get in there, it's just like being in a tomato jungle. And the really annoying thing about having to pick tomatoes when they're planted like that is the fact that when you pick them, they can actually stain not the tomatoes themselves, but I think it's when you're touching the leaves, etc. They can stain your skin green. So you have to cover up really well to make sure you don't get green skin all over your body. And it's not really fun because the temperature in those polytunnels is often very high, up to 30 degrees or something like that, and you have to wear all this protective clothing. But it's really lovely, on the other hand, picking up all the fresh tomatoes from the stalk and yeah, taking straight to your table and eating it. You can still smell the plant, and they taste completely different than shop-bought tomatoes. So that's my little story about tomatoes. I think they're all chopped now, so I'm going to get that bowl again and add them to it. One escaped. Here we go. And I've got my onion, which already peeled. I'm using half, but it's a small one, so peeled, yes, that's peeled. So I'm just going to quickly give it a chop. And again, onion is one of my favourite foods, and the one I have got a lot of respect for because for several reasons. Red onions, like many other plant foods which are highly coloured, contain a very high number of different antioxidants, which are the substances protecting us against free radicals, etc. And another thing that onions contain, not just red onions, onions in general, is a nutrient called quercetin, which has very highly anti-inflammatory properties. And there is a traditional naturopathic remedy for making onion and honey syrup. And all you need to do is chop the onion, either the way I'm chopping it now, or slice it in rings, and then you put it in a glass container, mix it with some honey, enough honey to cover it, put the lid on, and leave it in a warm place for a few hours, and the onion starts releasing the juice, and that juice then becomes the cough mixture you can have. And it's actually really delicious if you can ignore the onion smell. The taste is actually quite pleasant, and you can drink the cough mixture, and you can reuse the onions themselves either by adding them to stir fry, or you can caramelize them and add them to some other recipes. So the onions are now chopped, and I would advise you to check on your quinoa if you haven't done so. I reckon mine is ready now. So that's what it looks like when it's cooked. What I quite like to do is fluff it up with a fork to separate the grains. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you only just finished cooking yours, I would suggest that maybe you leave it for a little bit to cool if the quinoa is not very hot. It doesn't need a lot of cooling, but just to make sure that it's not really, really hot. So I'll leave mine for a little bit longer. And I'm going to chop my pepper now. If you wanted to make the salad a bit more colourful, you could use, as I was suggesting earlier, either a yellow or orange pepper, so there's a bit more contrast in the salad, but obviously use what you have, and I haven't got any yellow or orange peppers at home at the moment, so I'm using what I have, which is the red one. So that's pepper chopped into the bowl with the other ingredients. Next thing we're going to use is coriander. Make sure you wash it before. I think I've forgotten to wash mine, so I'm going to do that quickly now. Right, coriander washed and ready to chop. And I love the smell of it. Let me just chop it first, and then I'm going to tell you about why it's good for you. It's actually an ingredient that is a little bit like Marmite, in the sense that people often have a bit of a love or hate relationship with it. And I know several people who are saying they can't stand the taste of it or the smell of it. But personally, I love it. Although it wasn't love at first sight, I got to like and enjoy it over the years of using various recipes. If you want to enjoy original sort of Mexican flavors, I think coriander is really a must, because it features in so many different recipes. So that's coriander chopped. So let me tell you about why it's so good for you and why it's worth including in your diet. Coriander, otherwise known as cilantro, is a great digestive aid, and it has anti-inflammatory properties. It can also be helpful in regulating blood sugar. And according to research which was published in the Journal of German Society of Dermatology, as well as some studies which were conducted at the University Medical Center in Freiburg, which is also Germany, there are various compounds in coriander which may be helpful in clearing skin inflammation caused by rheumatic conditions, and it can also be good for people with eczema, dryness of the skin, and also fungal infections. Coriander may also be beneficial in order to protect us from salmonella, which is one of the most dangerous causes of foodborne illnesses in the world. And coriander has unusually high levels of a compound which is twice as powerful as antibiotic as a leading treatment for salmonella-based illness. And this was confirmed by a study conducted by the University of California at Berkeley. Coriander is also known for its ability to flush out heavy metals from the body, which can be stuck there as a result of our lifestyles, dietary choices, dental procedures, and also environmental pollutants. So if you fancy giving yourself a bit of a detox, make sure you include coriander in your diet on a regular basis. Talking of detoxes, it's not just our bodies that need detoxing. our minds and emotions are literally crying out for them a lot of the time too. And one of the reasons for that is the fact that stress and overwhelm became an order of the day for so many of us, with many people never taking any time out to address those until they push themselves almost to the breaking point. So if you don't want to become one of the statistics, take some action to look after your emotional health too. And one of the ways of doing that could be by giving mindfulness practices a go. If you never tried it and feel it's reserved just for the hippies, fear not, as I have a really easy beginner's guide to mindfulness in that lovely free spa guide I told you about before. So grab it by going to tinyurl.com/radiant spa guide and start feeling your stress and worry gradually melt away. So right, now you know everything about coriander and why it's good for you. Let's add it to our bowl. I did originally say it was one of the ingredients in the dressing, but I quite like adding it to the rest of the ingredients in the bowl and then mixing it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll probably use more than I stated in the original recipe ingredients, but I quite like coriander, so I don't mind having a fair amount of it. But use your own discretion in what quantity you want to put in that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to check on quinoa, which is cool enough to handle. So I'm going to add it to the bowl. Actually, I'll mix the ingredients first. So, because I haven't mixed them yet. And it's already starting to look beautiful. Very colourful. Let me show you. Oops. So let's add the quinoa now. Quinoa done. I'm going to give it another mix. You can probably see now why I was recommending halving the quantities if you're going to be eating by yourself. It will keep for 2 or 3 days in the fridge, but obviously you don't want to be eating any longer than that. And it's always best to eat your food as fresh as possible. So that's most of the salad done now, really. The only things that remain that need adding are the avocado and making the dressing. Right, so that's our salad mixed. It's looking really lovely and colourful. Just give it another stir. And most of the ingredients are already in there. The only thing that needs adding now is the avocado and also the dressing. What I tend to do, because the avocados can discolour, is make the dressing and adding the lemon juice, and there's also apple cider vinegar. So make that first and then chop the avocado and add the dressing straight away to stop the avocado discolouring as quickly as it would otherwise if it wasn't coated in the dressing. So let me just show you how to make the dressing quickly. It's very easy. So I've got my cup here. Apple cider vinegar. And some olive oil. And in the original recipe it says 1/3 of a cup, but I'm making half, so I'm going to use less than that. And I've already cut my lime in half, and I'm going to squeeze it straight into the mug. So that's lime juice done. Another stir. All ready. If you wanted to, you could add other ingredients to it to make it the dressing a bit more spicy. I mean, this salad is really beautiful. It doesn't need any extra ingredients, and it's got all the lovely Mexico style ingredients without the actual heat if you don't like the heat. So you could just have the dressing as it is, but if you wanted to spice it up a little bit, and I probably will because I sometimes like my food hot, I'm going to add a little bit of hot chili sauce to it, but I will probably do it later on once the salad is completed, and I'll just taste to see how much to add. So if you wanted to spice it up, you can do the same, or even if you've got some fresh chilies, you could chop some and add it to the salad as well, according to taste and how hot you like to have it. So salad dressing done, and all that remains now is deal with avocado. I did say in the recipe to use 2 avocados. That was a full portion. Mine are not massive, so I'm going to half of the quantity, would be probably 1.5, so I'm going to use 1.5 of those. But before I do, let me tell you a little bit about avocado and why it's so good for you. I'm just going to chop it in half first. So, as promised, let me tell you a little bit about avocados. Avocados are actually native to Mexico, and they go back millions of years, which is evidenced by fossil records. And avocados are actually a fruit and not a vegetable, even despite not being sweet. The word itself, avocado, is derived from the Aztec word for testicle, and avocados were believed to be powerful aphrodisiacs, so their consumption by virgins was forbidden in that culture. 80% of avocado's calorific content is fat, which is why in the past avocados were nicknamed poor man's butter. But the fat in avocado is the healthy monounsaturated type of fat. And avocados are also a rich source of a nutrient called lecithin, which is a great brain food. They are also a powerful source of vitamins, minerals, and various antioxidants. They are a good source of protein and can be helpful in regulating blood sugar levels. So, all in all, avocados are a pretty awesome food. And some of the ways to enjoy avocados include using them in place of mayonnaise by blending it with Greek yogurt or making a dressing using avocado, olive oil, lemon juice and some seasoning. Making a classic guacamole using ingredients such as avocados, onions, lime and coriander. Tossing fresh or frozen avocado chunks into smoothies for a source of healthy fat. Topping chilies and soups with sliced avocado, or you could even try topping a half-baked sweet potato with avocado, eggs and mushrooms for a tasty and nutritious breakfast or brunch. And one of my favourite ways of eating avocados as well, apart from savoury, is whipping up a dairy-free avocado chocolate mousse. And talking of chocolate avocado mousse, it's one of my all-time favourite, as I said, and it's a guilt-free and completely healthy sweet treat. If you've never tried it before, give it a go, and I promise that you won't be disappointed. And by the way, you can grab a recipe for a really easy chocolate avocado mousse in that lovely holistic home spa experience guide that I was telling you about early on during this training. So you just go to tinyurl.com/radiant spa guide to get your own copy of it now. Right, so now you know everything about avocados. Let's give them a chop. What I find one of the easiest ways of dealing with avocados is by scoring them and then scooping them out with a teaspoon. So what I tend to do, but you need to make sure that the avocado is ripe, otherwise it won't work. To provide it's ripe and soft, you can just cube it while it's still in the shell, like this. Just core it, yeah, and then you take a teaspoon, and I'm going to just scoop it out, just trying to as close to the avocado skin as possible so that there isn't any flesh left inside the shell. And that's half done. Do the same with the other bits. Done. And another half. And this is slightly different avocado, Hass avocado, which has got a dark, bit like crocodile skin, whereas the other one was smooth. And I actually prefer Hass avocados, although you know the other type tastes delicious as well. I think the dark skin Hass avocado is my favourite. They tend to be a bit smaller though. So I'm just going to take a little bit of stock at the end so that doesn't end up in the salad. Again, I'm just going to score it. Add it to the salad. Just keep it out. Right, that's all done now. So all we need to do is take our lovely dressing now and give it another stir. And I'm going to pour it over the salad, avocado and other bits, and then give it another mix. And it smells delicious as well because of the lime juice, which got a beautiful smell. Well, I like it anyway. It always reminds me of being in tropical places. And since I can't be in a tropical place right now, I think having some lovely food with lime juice in it is going to be the next best thing. So it's all done, and I'm really looking forward to packing into it shortly. And it looks like this. As I said earlier, I'm going to add a little bit of chili sauce to it and then taste it. Give a mix. Very good. So if you made the salad along with me, let me know how it turns out and if you enjoyed it. Did you add anything extra to it or substitute anything? How was that? And what could you add next time to make it your own? And also on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird was it really? Not that weird, eh? So now you're feeling more confident about using quinoa. Are you excited to discover even more healthy yet tasty ingredients? Well, now you can, as I've got some amazing dishes in my home spa guide, as well as your exclusive spa recipes and mindfulness practices. In all, this guide gives you the complete mind, body and spirit spa experience without leaving your home. So grab it here to get started now.